Hello and welcome to Pre-Departure Orientation. My name is Bobby Wilson Jr. and I serve as the Senior Study Abroad Advisor in the Study Abroad office. Today, if you're watching this, it means you're either studying abroad J-Term 2025, Spring Break 2025, or the entire spring semester 2025. So very excited that you made the decision to study abroad during your time at Loyola Chicago. Joined with us today are the full-time study abroad staff members. That includes Alana Carroll, who is a study abroad coordinator, Marley Stein, who is the director, and Allie Donovan, who is another study abroad advisor. And so we'll be the ones that are happy to talk to you guys today during this presentation. When it comes to an overview, we'll be reviewing what cultural adaptation means, in addition to how that intersects with your identities abroad. We'll then transition into talking about academic information related to study abroad as well, in addition to health, safety, wellness abroad tips and steps, and then overall tips and preparedness for the time that you will be spending abroad. We do have some just general goals, so we hope by the end of this, you all will be able to recognize what cultural adaptation actually means and how it intersects with your identities abroad. These are topics that you never can really become an expert at. It's just our presentation hopes to allow the ball to start rolling and some ideas to start forming. We then hope that you're able to understand academic specific information, such as the credit and grade conversions, pass, no pass policies, and course approvals. We want you to also understand health and safety resources during your time abroad. And then finally, we want you to feel prepared for your program as well. Keep in mind that if you're watching this call, you might be doing a faculty-led program, which is much shorter in nature, or you might be doing a semester-long program. Some of the information that we're going to give might be more relevant in some moments for faculty-led students. Sometimes it might be more relevant for semester-long students. Sometimes it might be relevant for everyone. So we'll make sure that we do our best to identify when specific information is for your specific program. But if you have any program-specific questions, you can feel free to reach out to your study abroad advisor or your on-site support staff as well. And so with that, I'm going to hand things over to Allie Donovan to talk to you all about cultural adaptation.
Hi, my name is Allie, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about cultural adaptation in your experiences abroad. By the end of our time together, I hope that you will have a better understanding of how to identify and successfully navigate the multiple phases of cultural adaptation that you will experience abroad. That you'll find examples of cultural adaptation that you've already done here in your lives at LUC, and to provide you with some tips for managing cultural adaptation, aiding in your intercultural competence. So I think you can kind of start out by just thinking to yourself a little bit about what is culture, what that means to you. If you want, feel free to pause the video and just kind of have a think about it for a second. I'm going to share with you the definition of culture that we'll work with in our presentation today. So for our purposes today in our conversation, culture will be defined as a shared pattern of behaviors and interactions, cognitive constructs, and effective understandings that one would learn through a process of socialization. The shared patterns would identify members of a culture group while distinguishing those of another group. This is kind of academic, so let's break it down and talk a little bit more concretely about some things that you might notice. Right now, I've pulled together data from 4 countries: Chile, Germany, South Korea, and the United States. And what we can do is dive a little bit deeper into some of the unique facets of the culture of each place. For example, power distance. Whether the country is one in which hierarchy is very established and respected, or one that's more egalitarian. So if I'm coming from, say, the United States, so power distance ranking of, say, 40, and I go to Germany, I might not notice a huge difference in that regard. But if I were to go and spend my semester abroad or my time abroad in Chile, I might notice more of a difference in this aspect. I might notice a little bit more respect for hierarchy, differences between people in power and without. We could look not just at power distance, but things like individualism, to what extent a culture might focus more on the individual or on the collective. We could look at something like motivation towards success and achievement. This might be things like considering success to be rising to the top of your field, very competition oriented. We could think about things like uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, indulgence, more of a work hard, play hard culture versus restraint. All of these things will make up the culture of the countries that you are going to. And so they're all worth considering when we think about the overall culture of the place. On our next slide, we are going to talk a little bit about the different aspects that make up culture. In fact, at the beginning of this talk, when you were thinking about what culture means to you, you might have come up with some of these. We can think about culture as being kind of like an iceberg, in that commonly stated idea about icebergs having most of their mass and volume beneath the surface, right? Most of the iceberg we cannot see. Culture can be kind of like that too, at least for the things that we can see on first glance versus that require us to dig a little bit deeper. We can talk about surface culture, things like food, dress, music, television shows, the stuff that you might immediately bring to mind when considering the culture of a different place. But a lot of culture happens sort of beneath the surface. You may not notice it right away. It may take a little bit longer before you really identify what's going on. These could be things like the courtesies that you show to others, body language, the manner in which you would interact with strangers and friends and families, attitude towards elders, even things like concept of the self can differ from culture to culture. A brief experience that I had that really highlighted this for me happened when I was living abroad in the Czech Republic. I was talking to one of my friends there, and she made a comment about the way I walk around and just exist in the world. She said, "Allie, you're always smiling." She said, "You know, when you do this, you seem a little bit," and she paused, and I'm filling in the blanks, thinking, "You seem a little bit nice. You seem a little bit approachable. You seem a little bit friendly." But what she said was, "You seem a little bit insane." To me, this really showed two big cultural differences. First, the differences in the way that one might interact with strangers and just carry oneself out in public, and also differences in communication styles. She had a much more direct communication style than I might have. So it's important to keep these things in mind as you consider the cultural experiences that you'll be having abroad. Because sometimes when we have some expectation set by our own cultural experience that doesn't quite meet the reality of where we are, we can experience a disconnect. And on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about that disconnect. We refer to these as cultural misunderstandings or bumps. When you are in your host country, you are likely to experience some cultural bumps. This is what happens. This is the term that we use when you expect a certain behavior and you get something different when you're interacting with somebody from another culture. This could be a miscommunication because you both have differing cultural norms. It could be due to language barriers. Many of you are going to be living your lives or conducting your academics in a second language. These experiences can challenge you, but they also provide opportunities for learning, for growth, and for increased understanding of both your culture and the culture in which you find yourself. We like to give the example of driving a car and going over speed bumps. I'm sure some of you who are listening to me right now have gone over a speed bump and have done that a little bit too fast, maybe suffering some consequences. But once you do that, you learn something, right? You learn a little bit better how to navigate those speed bumps in the future. you're better prepared to look out for them and to approach them a bit more slowly and with that understanding. Cultural bumps function similarly, where once you have a few, you're more able to look out for them, to approach situations a little bit cautiously with understanding of their potential effect. This is something that you might have heard referred to, by the way, as culture shock. For our purposes, we tend to refer to it more as a cultural bump, since we think about it more as a bump in the road rather than an enduring shock to the system. Recognition of these cultural bumps can go a long way in aiding toward cultural adaptation. This is what we call it, the overall long-term process of adjusting and feeling comfortable in your new environment. I'd like to give you some examples of how this might play out using a model kind of like a wave. Things might start out in your new culture where you're feeling very positive, very curious, and eagerly anticipating these new, exciting experiences. We might think about this as being like the top of the wave, the honeymoon phase. Everything's new, exciting, enchanting, you're thrilled. But as time goes on, you might find yourself starting to feel like these differences are not so much differences, but inferiorities. It's common for people in this stage to feel frustrated or confused. Cultural adaptation occurs out on the other side of that trough, when you feel a bit more relaxed and develop a more balanced and objective view of your experience, with the recognition that these differences aren't necessarily better or worse, but just that, differences. Many of you may have done things like this in your lives already without even realizing it. Some of you listening to me right now have probably moved to Chicago, whether it was for university or, like me, prior to university. Imagine coming to Chicago for the first time and being enchanted by it, going to Navy Pier, just gazing out at the lake, seeing the bean, having deep dish for the first time, right? Enjoying all the wonderful things that Chicago has to offer. But after some time, you start noticing other things. You start noticing that the traffic can be brutal and that the drivers do not always navigate it well. You might endure some unpleasantness with the weather, or notice that I don't have friends here. And so adaptation and acceptance in a situation like this might involve things like joining local classes or clubs or organizations to develop that support network, buying a winter coat and preparing yourself for the weather that you can't change, sharing culture of the places that you came from in your new context. Having moved here from many other places, I always love this aspect so much, being able to share a meal from some of the other places that I've lived. Adaptation and acceptance is when you're really able to take that good and that bad and notice in the entirety, we have some differences. Moving on, we can talk a little bit about how it doesn't always look like that smooth curve. And that's something else that you should be aware of as you're going into these new cultural environments. A more true to life representation of the ups and downs might be a bit more irregular. Within the honeymoon phase, there might be higher and lower points. Within the periods of frustration, there might be higher and lower points as well. This is not a process that always goes smoothly, and that's important to keep in mind. Another thing that's going to be very important to keep in mind is how your identity is viewed within the lenses of the different cultures in which you find yourself. And so I'd like to turn things over now to Marley Stein, the Director of Study Abroad, to talk a little bit more about navigating identities abroad. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So it's really important to acknowledge what Ali shared with all of you is that different countries have different cultural understandings of various identities. They have different ways of speaking about diversity and inclusion due to their historical, social, political backgrounds. So when you go into a different environment, you'll want to reflect on your own personal identities and understand whether or not you may be a part of a majority or an underrepresented group while abroad, and how navigating a different cultural context or different nationality might impact your own perception of your identity. One example is that a student who might identify as Mexican American in the US might find that others are determining or making assumptions about their identity when studying abroad. They may identify you as Mexican and not Mexican American, or vice versa. So understanding that different cultures have different perspectives regarding how different identities are perceived. Do your research ahead of time to know what to expect related to your own personal identities. One way to stay connected and understand how locals with similar identities might be able to help you navigate your own identity in a different location or country is to join community groups associated with your identities. This is a great way to meet locals who share similar interests and values while also providing you with insights and support. If you encounter any microaggressions, racism, or harassment while abroad, make sure to inform your on-site program staff. They'll be able to help you navigate it with the cultural lens that you need to be successful abroad. And also, Loyola Study Abroad you can contact, and we will work with you to support, if needed, you to submit it to the Office of Equity and Compliance via their reporting system for discrimination. If you have any questions or concerns, speak up, and know that the Study Abroad Office is here to support you with whatever needs you have. One thing that can be helpful when going into a new environment is talking to a former alumni or a former Loyola student who might have a similar identity to you and have gone to a similar country or region of the world that can help you understand what you might experience there as well. In any new environment, there are going to be moments of happiness, moments of euphoria, exciting moments, and then there's also going to be moments where you are frustrated, struggling, maybe you're very stressed out. And it's important to know that you already have a lot of these skills to rely upon to be successful in a study abroad context. Some of these here are examples of ways you can build resiliency utilizing your own go-to default mechanism for self-support. Some of these include self-awareness, connection, flexible thinking, self-regulation, and optimism. Self-awareness is a very core factor in resilient people. So the more you know yourself, the more you know how you might react in different cultural contexts, or if you do experience a cultural bump or misunderstanding. Connection, feeling alone is a very common feeling when you're abroad, even though you are surrounded by other study abroad students, other international travelers. But finding a support network that you feel comfortable to be your true self in will make branching out and challenging yourself and being more open in a new environment a little bit easier. Flexible thinking, not everything is going to go according to plan. You may have planned to go to a different neighborhood in a particular part of the city or town that you're studying in and have it all mapped out. You looked up the time that the museum is opening, and you find out that actually it's a random holiday you weren't aware of. You walk all the way across the city and it's closed. Knowing that you have to be flexible sometimes, that how you plan things might not turn out how you anticipated, and that there could be many beautiful alternative paths that you take in the moment when something doesn't go according to plan. Self-regulation. a way, knowing how you might de-escalate feelings of stress. So maybe it's journaling when you have a misunderstanding with your home state parent, or maybe it's going on a run, maintaining routine practices that you typically do at home abroad so that there is some consistency and regularity in your day-to-day activity. And lastly, optimism. Doing your best to try to look on the bright side of every situation. It's a way to promote psychological well-being. It helps you challenge maybe unhelpful thinking, improve mood, and identify what is and isn't within your control. So maybe planning one event or planning one outing with your friends is within your control, but maybe the group cultural excursion you're going on with your professor is not in your control. So understanding what is and isn't in your control. All of you have examples of this in your daily life now, especially having already navigated coming to university for the first time. So please be confident in yourselves and know that you can rely on all of these various forms of building resiliency abroad as well. Moving into health and safety abroad, while we want study abroad to be a fun, a learning, and enriching experience, that can only be possible if you are cognizant of health and safety requirements and needs abroad as well. So first and foremost, alcohol and drug abuse will not be tolerated. Local laws apply, but let's say you are able to drink abroad, consume alcohol abroad because you're of legal age there. You can, however, please do so in moderation and responsibly, and know that you're still subject to Loyola's community standards and code of conduct. If you abuse alcohol, that is a violation of the community standards and code of conduct. Please note that alcohol use, although if it is legal in that particular country that you're studying, it should not be consumed during program time or in program housing. This is in alignment with almost all of the affiliate or exchange programs or faculty-led programs that you will be going on. And please know that drug use is not permitted and is illegal in most locations that you would be studying in, and local laws apply if you are going to break laws related to drug or alcohol abuse. The majority of illnesses and injuries are caused by alcohol-related use. So if you do engage in drug use or drug possession, it is potentially grounds for immediate expulsion. This is also congruent with many of the rules for your affiliate and exchange programs and your faculty-led programs. Breaking laws abroad can carry much more severe punishment. This means that if you break a law that is not a law set by Loyola or by the U.S., you are subject to the sanctions that are put in place by that particular country. There is little we can do to support you if you break a local law. The alcohol and drugs can impair judgment, so especially in new, unfamiliar environments. If you're not familiar with navigating a city or a town at dark or by yourself, please be responsible when consuming alcohol if of legal drinking age. And use good judgment if consuming alcohol. Only do so in a space where you're safe, you know your surroundings, and you are with peers who can look out for you. If you do observe alcohol abuse by other program participants, please speak up. You all are a community of study abroad students, of Loyola students abroad. If you are seeing a student struggling emotionally or mentally, please let them know that you will be sharing so with your on-site staff or with the study abroad office so that we can step in and provide the necessary support for that student to be successful in their study abroad term. You can also file a care report with Loyola with the Dean of Students as well. There are instructions on how to file a care report as well as an Office of Equity and Compliance report in your Go Global portal in the post-acceptance learning content. If alcohol is, sorry, go back. If alcohol is present, look out for each other. That means that if you all go to a bar together, you make sure that the 5 students who went to that bar come back to the bar. Never walk alone when consuming alcohol. All right, so before you go, there's some research and meetings that you should have before to make sure you're prepared as possible. Visit your physician. This can be a local physician. This can be the wellness center here on campus. It can be a travel clinic. When you visit your physician, it's important that you know what you want to discuss. Please plan to discuss any important health accommodations that you might need abroad and how you will manage those abroad. This includes mental health, any medical conditions, allergies, that you might encounter or need additional support while abroad. Please discuss prescriptions and ensure you have enough to sustain you. Yes, in some countries, you can get additional prescriptions if needed, if you run out, but it is much more difficult. So the best course of action is to bring a full supply of the prescription you need for the full duration of the program abroad. If you do ultimately need additional prescriptions in country, you can work with our CISI insurance provider to find the best physician in country that could support you in getting a new prescription or help you send it over to the destination from the US that you are. Some medications will require you to travel with a doctor's prescription or a letter from a physician. I would say for every single medication, just make sure you have it to be safe. And then it is true that in some countries, certain certain medications are considered controlled substances, and you might not be able to bring those with you abroad without the necessary documentation, and you might not be able to get those in country. If you want to know what those regulations are by country, by medication type, you'll want to consult the CDC website, travel.state.gov. They have a particular page that talks about vaccinations and prescriptions. That's where you'll also find which immunizations you will need for your term abroad. These are a list of travel and immunization clinics across the Chicagoland area. If you do not need an immunization because you're not traveling to a country that needs that, you do not need to see a travel clinic or an immunization clinic. You can just see your regular physician or consult the wellness center for any physical or mental health needs. All right. So as you prepare, do your research, review pre-departure materials, both from the study abroad office here at Loyola, but more importantly, from your affiliate or exchange partner, because they're going to have resources that are country specific that it's important to be familiar with. Stay updated on any sort of infectious diseases or how a particular country regulates COVID-19 conditions or flu, etc. Learn about medications that may be restricted or illegal, research the socio-political climate and other safety matters. This comes back to having a stronger cultural understanding of where you're going so that you can move through spaces with a strong understanding of how to keep yourself safe and discuss important global issues with your new acquaintances and peers. Some resources to do research is the U.S. Department of State, travel.state.gov. That's where you'll find travel advisories 1 through 4. Nobody is going to a level 4 country, but some of you may be studying in a level 3 country, and they'll give you specific guidelines on how to stay safe abroad if you are going to a level 2 or 3 country. They also will outline exit and entry requirements. There are some new regulations coming out in January for some European and United Kingdom destinations, so please make sure that you check your country's entry-exit requirements. And then lastly, there are country-specific health and safety information that you can find on the CDC website and the U.S. Department of State. These are my quick tips in how to stay safe abroad. There are going to be a variety of situations that might not be safe, and there are ways to keep yourself safe if you find yourself in any of those situations. Petty theft is one of the most common incidents abroad, so make sure to not carry large amounts of cash. Be careful with your phone and other high-value items. If you're walking around a town or a city, be aware of your surroundings, have your phone not in your hand, but in your pocket or in a purse, safely secured. Look up where you're going before you go so you're not reliant on GPS. Do not drink in excess or accept drinks from strangers. Look out for one another when in environments where somebody could potentially put something in your drink. Activism is a really wonderful thing, and global activism and global engagement is really important and something we hope that you learn about when you're abroad. However, we discourage you from engaging in public demonstrations. Local laws are very different in terms of public demonstrations and free speech. So please avoid public demonstrations because they could quickly turn from safe to potentially violent or out of control. And if you are arrested in these scenarios, there's, again, little we can do if you break a local law. Never walk home alone or accept a ride from a stranger. You really shouldn't be in vehicles with any new acquaintances or colleagues or friends or peers. So please also be mindful of that. Automobile accidents are the most common, the second most common incidents that occur abroad. A lot of times local traffic laws are different than they are in the US or different states in the US. Oftentimes, cars do not yield to pedestrians, or the streets are quite narrow and you are walking in the actual street and have to jump to the side if a car is coming, and they will not stop for you. So please be aware of your surroundings in terms of traffic patterns. Walk with a purpose and be aware of the traffic patterns. And if you are all traveling to some of the beautiful beaches that are in many of your countries that you'll be studying in, please make sure that you only swim if there's a lifeguard present, and that you obey all posted warning or guidance before entering any body of water that you might want to swim in. Accommodation request. It is your responsibility to contact the SAC and complete their accommodation request form. The Student Accessibility Center registration form is linked here for you to access at a later point. It's also linked in your Go Global portal. There's a question that asks if you will be requesting accessibility accommodations, and that will send an email to the Student Accessibility Center as well as to you to remind you to register your accommodations with them. If you have accommodations already on campus at Loyola, you still need to register again to go abroad because they're very different contexts. The Student Accessibility Center will assign you an advisor or a case manager that will put together an accommodation plan for you while abroad. There is no guarantee that your accommodation plan will be able to be implemented. It is purely a recommendation to be shared with your on-site staff and faculty. And we, as a study abroad advising team and study abroad office, will do what we can to advocate with the on-site partner for your accommodations to be put in place. The sooner you do this, the more likely accommodations can be arranged for you in country. This includes many students think that this just includes accommodations that are needed in the classroom. It also includes accommodations that might be needed in experiential excursions, any sort of site visit you're doing when you're in country, housing arrangements, dietary restrictions that might be needed as part of the meal plan you might have opted into, religious accommodations as well. So please make sure that you register. There will be a medical history self-disclosure form in your Go Global portal. This is voluntary. This is meant for only in the case of an emergency or to support you with having the necessary connections to physicians or mental health providers in country that you might need. So please feel free to share anything that is relevant to the on-site staff or to your faculty leaders in that medical history form. It will only be shared on a need-to-know basis. Emergency resources and procedures. When you get on site, you're going to have an on-site orientation where they're going to give you additional phone numbers to have on hand in the event of an emergency. These are going to be some that you should already have in your phone before leaving. Research what the local equivalent of 911 is. When you get on site, enter in all the on-site staff contacts that you'll need to contact in the event of an emergency or a semi-emergency. We have the Loyola emergency phone number, which is the same one that you're used to calling here on campus. If you call that number from abroad, it will route to me, and I will do my best to coordinate anything you might need between the US and your on-site staff. And then on your CISI insurance card, which we'll provide more detail on momentarily, there is a phone number number that you can call in the event of emergency and be immediately connected to someone that will be able to connect you with emergency services, a mental health provider, telehealth, or in-country lookup for a physician specific to what you might need, given that crisis that you could be in at that moment. If you have a minor illness or a minor injury, your first point of contact should be the on-site staff. There's little the study abroad office can do if you have some minor ailment, such as pink eye, or you twist your ankle or something like that. You're going to want to make sure that you have your on-site staff there to support you. If you don't want to contact the on-site staff and you want to navigate it yourself, that is completely understandable. You can use the CISI network that you can look up both in the phone mobile application or in your My CISI portal, and look up a provider for your specific need. There are both preferred and non-preferred providers. A preferred provider means that billing is directly set up between our CISI insurance and that particular medical provider, and so you will not have to pay out of pocket. If it's a non-preferred provider, you would have to pay out of pocket, and then you would get reimbursed from CISI. One thing to note is that medical care is much less expensive than the US is out of pocket. So if you do need to see a provider out of pocket, it will likely not be as exorbitant as medical costs are in the US without insurance. Be prepared that you might have to pay for services at the time of treatment. CISI has a network of both specialized care and general providers as well. If you do have a major illness, seek help without delay, contact your on-site staff emergency phone and call the AXA emergency phone number, because they'll get you connected to someone way quicker than you will have time to look up in an application or on the website. When it's appropriate and when you have the time and things have stabilized a bit, please let us know what you're going through and the incidents that we can support as best as we can. And please ask that someone on site notify your emergency contact. A lot of times parents and loved ones want to know that you're doing well, but the on-site staff is going to need your verification to allow them to notify the emergency contact. And now I'm going to turn over to Alana Carroll, Study Abroad Coordinator, who can support you in finding all the information you need to know about your insurance and filing claims.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about some registration and applications. These apps and registrations are mandatory. They are requirements that are listed in your Go Global application. We wanted to highlight and provide some additional information. And so it's important because they can keep you safe while you are traveling and alert you to incidents or events that may affect you. So first is the Alert Traveler app. This app is a safety app which is connected with our Go Global system, and it is tied to your itinerary record. And so it's tied to your dates and to your location. It's important to download and activate this app so that our office may do push notifications should there be an incident in your area, and we can do check-ins and vice versa. In addition to that, the second one is the STEP registration. This is with the United States Department of State. You will register your travel so that the government can provide you with the alerts about safety conditions in your destination country. And then the third one is the CISI app, and this is connected to the international health insurance policy that you all will be enrolled in. This app allows you to do multiple things, such as access your CISI cards, find providers, add your additional travel plans so that you can get any safety alerts or warnings. So with the Alert Traveler, this app, as I mentioned, is a safety app, and so it's connected to your Go Global system, and it's tied to your itinerary records and the dates and locations. It provides you with those alerts about events that may affect you, And it allows our office, as I said, to do check-ins with you. It's important to have this downloaded so that we can do those push notifications. You have the ability with this particular app to turn on geolocation services. If you are traveling elsewhere outside of your itinerary record and you opt in for those geolocations, it will follow you wherever you go. And so, again, it will provide you and our office any alerts based on where you're at if there's an incident that occurs. We recommend that you opt into. It'll have a lot of different notifications that you can opt into, but we recommend that you opt into the most critical notifications. That way you're aware if something major goes on. And then other notifications can be adjusted based on what you want to be notified of. This is an important tool that we're wanting to take the time and explain a little further about this, even though you do have the information in your Go Global application. If you move on, we have the QR codes. Oh, go back one more slide. Thanks, Bobby. These are the QR codes to download the Alert Traveler app. So if you have an iOS device, you would utilize this QR code to do the download. Or if you have an Android device, you would use the other QR code to download that app. Thank you. So once you do that download, you want to access your Go Global application from your mobile device. And so from your application, you would look for the material entitled Alert Traveler Outgoing Material. You'll see, we did a little screenshot there. And so you'll see that there are actually 3 different hyperlinks. One is a video that tells you a little bit more about Alert Traveler, which is helpful. The second one is giving you instructions. Again, it's a video providing you with instructions on how to download and activate the Alert Traveler. And then the third one is the one that I want you, when you're ready, you're going to click on that. And so when you do that, if you move on to the next slide, thanks, Bobby. When you do that, it will pull up this activation panel. This is what will pop up on your phone. And so with that activation panel, you're going to plug in your country and your cell number, and then you're going to check off the box to notify me by SMS if impacted by alerts. At the bottom, you will see a Save and Log into Alert Traveler button. Tap this and the app will just downloaded, will be launched and activated. So once you're in the app, again, as I mentioned before, you will be prompted for several permissions. And we want you, of course, to decide what you want, but we really want you to do the most critical. And so, again, you can adjust those as needed. Okay, so moving on to the STEP, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Again, this is with the U.S. Department of State. This is a registration of your travel. And so this is important so that the government can provide you with alerts about safety conditions in your destination countries. The registration is so that the U.S. government knows where their citizens are in the event of an emergency. So when you're doing this registration, be prepared to answer some questions about your travel itinerary, where you're going and the dates. You're also going to need your passport number when you do the registration. And the overall amount of time needed to complete this is about 20 minutes. Move on to the next slide. Thank you. So the next slide is about the CISI Traveler app. This, again, is a health insurance app, and it is linked to your itinerary record for your program. And so this app is very handy because it's right on your phone. And so when you are in a medical emergency situation or traveling, walking around in your country, you need to access some information about your insurance, it's right there. So that's why we encourage you to download that. It can provide you the documents. It can provide you easy access to your insurance card. It can provide you the search engines to locate a provider. As Marley had mentioned, there's different specialties with medical specialties. You're allowed to do those searches. You can find the preferred versus non-preferred. And then the medical emergency information. If you are looking to reach out to the team assist, you have that available as well. So if you plan to, one other thing that I always like to mention to students, that if you plan to travel beyond the end date of your program, you can go on to the CISI Traveler app and extend your CISI insurance for your personal travel. However, just be aware that that coverage is to be paid. It's at your expense. So be aware of that. So let's dig a little further into CISI. And so what I like to review in this section is what when students are going to be enrolled, what you as a student will receive, the tools and resources that are available to you through CISI. I like to always touch base a little bit about the claim submissions and the reimbursement process. And then lastly, how to reach CISI. So CISI insurance, the study abroad office will do the enrollment usually about 1 month prior to your departure. And so when we do that enrollment, a welcome package will be emailed to your LUC email account from enrollment@culturalinsurance.com. So that email will come directly from them. The subject line will say CISI materials, and I state that because sometimes students either miss this email, or they can go into this email can get routed to the spam or junk folder. So we always kind of provide you with some information like, have you looked in your email, your spam or junk? Type in CISI materials, see if something comes up. Again, if you don't see it and it's a month prior to your departure, reach out to your study abroad advisor, and we would be more than happy to send the material once again to you through CISI. So the welcome package, what's included in that? So when you receive that email, you are going to have various directions, instructions, and links and attachments. One of the attachments is going to be the participant ID card, and I'll show you shortly what that will look like. In addition to that, you'll get a link to or an attachment to the brochure itself. I've also put a QR code here if you would like to look at that policy ahead of time before you get the welcome package. You certainly can scan that QR code and take a look at that policy. Also, you'll receive a consulate letter, so a claim form, and then links and instructions on how to not only download the CISI Traveler app and also how to log into the My CISI participant portal is what you would use on a computer. So they'll give instructions for that as well. So this is what your card, the electronic CISI card, looks like. So this is what you'll receive in that welcome package. Please be mindful, this is just a sample. So the policy number is going to actually be 24, and then it will have your participant ID card, your ID number, your name, your coverage dates. What I like to point out is on the right-hand side for emergencies. This is the AXA assist that Marley had mentioned earlier. So when you're in that situation, if you have the app on your phone, you can go through that to look for the phone number, or if you are just trying to remember quickly and you know it's on the card, you can look on the back of that card and see the numbers there to call them, and they can assist you and walk you through your situation. This is a great visual. It shows you what that My CISI participant portal looks like. Again, it gives you essentially all the same features as what's on your app. So you can access those documents such as the ID, the consulate letter, the policy brochures. You can do that provider search where you can look for worldwide, depending on the city and the country, specialty, preferred, non-preferred. You can go in there and do the search as well. The contact information for CISI, the claim information forms, what you need to fill out and submit. And then information for your travel destination, if it's a particular country, as we were talking about those, the equivalents to 911. You can proactively look in here to find out what that number is for the country that you're going. So that has lots of helpful information on the portal as well. And then I always like to provide, here's a QR code to the CISI claim form in advance. I think it's helpful to, perhaps scan that and just take a look at that form just in case you are in a situation, whether it's an emergency or not an emergency, minor or major, just so you are aware of what you will need to fill out to get reimbursement should that be a non-preferred provider. So you have an idea of what's coming your way as far as the claim form itself. And then this is just kind of a summary of what I mentioned. Excuse me, and phone numbers on how to get a hold of CISI, email, and their physical mailing address as well. Thank you.
All right, hi everyone. Bobby back here. So now to talk to you guys about academic and course registration information that is specific for study abroad. And so first off, we're going to talk about course approvals. Course approvals is specific information for students who are studying abroad for the entire semester. So if you're going to be abroad during the entire semester of spring 2025, this is for you. So what is the course approval process? The course approval process will be the process of getting your study abroad courses approved for specific Loyola credit. So if you go abroad, for example, and you hope that your courses abroad fulfill major, minor, core, or engaged learning credit, you must undergo the course approval process in order for that to translate as such. Keep in mind that the course approval process, as I mentioned, is only specific for semester-long students. If you are doing a faculty-led program, you do not need to go through the course approval process. And then the course approval process is only required, as I mentioned, for courses that you hope will count for major, minor, core, or engaged learning credit. If you hope for general elective credits when you're abroad, which go towards the 120 credit hour requirement set by Loyola to graduate, you do not need to go through the course approval process. The courses you take abroad will transfer back automatically as general elective credits if your courses do not get approved. If you want additional information about the course approval process, where you can find that information is by logging into your Go Global Study Abroad portal. And circled in blue here on the screen, there's a tab called Course Approvals. If you go ahead and you click on that tab, you will then see video tutorials that will walk you through step by step exactly what you need to do to undergo successfully the course approval process. And so please make sure you reference that tab to receive additional information. And if you have any specific questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to your study abroad advisor. We're more than happy to walk you through that process and assist in any way that we can. Just some touch points we want to make sure we mention regarding course approvals. Courses not submitted will automatically transfer back as general elective credits, as I mentioned. Please do your best to only submit 6 to 10 courses for approval. We say this because when you're abroad, you're required to be enrolled from 12 to 18 credits during the entire time that you're abroad. And this will basically translate to like 4 to 6 courses that you probably will be taking. And so there's really not a need to submit more courses than this. We just say 6 to 10 because that will give you some flexibility. If one of those courses ends up overlapping with another one, or you end up, not liking that course and you want to register for another one, you'll have additional courses approved and you'll know what they'll transfer back at. So that's why we recommend 6 to 10. And then ideally, you want to submit your courses for approval before you register for them. The reason for this is because then you'll understand what courses to register for abroad and how they'll translate back to Loyola Chicago. Although the ideal time frame is before registration, as long as you do it before departing for the program, you should be in good shape. And just one final reminder, course approvals is specific for semester-long students. So let's transition into talking about grades when you are abroad. So when you guys are abroad, the courses will automatically come back as letter grades. This is information for semester long and for faculty-led students. So if you guys just, do the things as you normally would, they will automatically transfer back as letter credits, or as letter grades, meaning that the grades that you receive on your study abroad program will factor into your Loyola GPA. If you would like to apply for an exception and allow your grades to come back as pass, no pass, this is something that you have to do within the first 2 weeks of the semester. And so if you guys are abroad and you realize, oh crap, I'm spending too much time traveling and I'm not focusing so much on my academics, I absolutely need to do pass, no pass because I'm not doing too hot. You will not be able to do that if you do it after that 2 week start period of the spring semester. So if you decide that you want to submit courses as pass, no pass, what you can do is you can log into your Locus account, you can click on the online forms and help, and you can download the pass, no pass undergraduate form request. You will need to fill this out with your academic advisor for every course that you hope to take as pass, no pass, and then those are reviewed on a case-by-case basis by each department. Please keep in mind that pass, no pass is not permitted for any major courses, any core courses, nor for first or second year students. And so if you fall under any of those categories, you would not be able to submit classes as no pass, no pass. And if you have any specific pass, no pass questions, please feel free to contact and work with your academic advisors. They will be great resources for you in that process. Please just make sure you do so within the first 2 weeks of the spring semester. That's very important. Lastly, not for credit study abroad is not permitted. So all the courses that you take on your program, even if you're doing an internship program, for example, you must take the associated credit that's associated with the internship and just classes in general. We've also just linked a copy of what the pass, no pass undergraduate request form looks like. This is what it looks like. Again, this is found in your Locus account. So next thing, we're going to talk about transcripts. This is very important information. So once your grades are finalized for your program, you will need to have your transcript sent to our office. There's 2 ways that our office is able to receive your transcript. The first one is via US mail. And so you can request that your program directly send us your transcript with all your final grades. And then once we process it, we will send you an email letting you know that it's been processed. The second way of ensuring we receive your transcript is to request that your program securely transfers our office your transcript with your final grades. They can do this by sending it to SAO transcripts at luc.edu. Please keep in mind that it is completely normal for grades to not show up for 1 to 3 months after your program ends. We have to receive the transcript, process it, and then your academic department also has to process it, which takes some time. Please note that if you fail to have your transcript sent to our office, it is possible that the courses you take abroad do not fulfill some of your Loyola degree requirements. And so it's very important that you do this as soon as your final grades are posted. And of course, if you're doing a faculty-led program, you don't need to do this because you're taking Loyola courses when you are on a faculty-led program. This is specific for semester-long students. So when it comes to registering for study abroad, for faculty-led students, you will be manually enrolled in your study abroad course by the specific department that houses your specific program. It's just important for you when you're registering for your spring 2025 courses that you save the time of that faculty-led program, that you don't register for courses during that time. So please keep that in mind. For semester-long students, you are not able to be enrolled as a study abroad student and enrolled in on-campus Loyola courses at the same time. And so you do not need to register for courses for spring 2025. However, what you need to do is before December 1st, there is a post-decision requirement inside of your Go Global portal where we are asking you how many credits you intend to take abroad. As a reminder, you are required to remain enrolled full-time during the duration of your program, which is 12 to 18 US credits. And so before December 1st, we need you guys to indicate in the post-decision requirements how many credits that you're taking. And the reason for this is because then we are going to be registering you December 1st in the Study Abroad Indicator course, which is called INDS 300X Foreign Study. And the reason that we do this is because when you're outside of Loyola for a semester, this indicator course is what keeps you enrolled as a full-time Loyola student, even though you are not on campus. And so it's very important that you indicate how many credits that you're taking so we are able to enroll you in the appropriate amount of credits during the time in which you're abroad. If you end up, indicating that you're going to be enrolled in a specific amount of credits and that changes when you're abroad, there's not a problem as long as you are being remained full time, which is the equivalent of 12 to 18 credits as a reminder. Piggybacking off of this, before December 1st, if for whatever reason you enrolled in spring 2025 courses, or if you have any kind of holds on your account, you need to make sure that you unenroll from those courses. In addition, that the holds are dropped on your account before December 1st. This is very important because if you have holds and or if you're enrolled in courses during the spring 25 semester, we cannot enroll you in the study abroad indicator course. And so you need to make sure holds are dropped and that you're not registered for any courses. And again, that information is specific for semester long students. Keep in mind that the indicator credits that you see in the indicator course, they're not necessarily a reflection of the actual credits you'll receive from your program. But as long as we know that you're enrolled full time and that remains true, there shouldn't be a problem. There is a slight difference for MAP grant recipients, as you need to be enrolled in the INDS 300X indicator course in the same number of credit hours that you will actually be taking abroad. And so if you are a MAP grant recipient, you will just need to, it's your responsibility to inform the study abroad office before December 1st of the amount of credit hours you do plan on taking abroad. And if that changes, you need to let your study abroad advisor know as soon as possible so that we can update that in your records. We're going to transition now into talking about some academic considerations when you are studying abroad. So first and foremost, do not forget that you are a student when you are abroad. And so it's easy to get caught up in the traveling and speaking another language and getting to know other cultures. But please keep in mind you are a student when you are abroad and that you are held to the standards of what it means to be a Loyola student. In addition, as I've mentioned several times, if you are a semester-long student, you do need to be enrolled full-time, which is, again, the equivalent of 12 to 18 U.S. credits. For students that are doing exchange programs primarily or any kind of direct enroll program, it's very important to understand the credit conversion from the foreign university to the U.S. So, for example, if any of you are going to Europe, very likely if you're doing an exchange or you're doing a direct enroll affiliate program, it's very possible that the credits abroad are in ECTS, which is the European credit system. And so you want to understand what those translate to back here in the States. And so please make sure you're referencing the foreign university's credit conversion, which we've linked in this presentation. And this is also on our website as well. And then the same goes for grades as well. You might not be graded on the typical American like 0 to 4.0 GPA scale. So you want to make sure you understand the grade conversion, which you also can find on our website. And we've also linked that chart in this presentation as well. It's also important to ask about final exams. There are some programs that may have resit exam period dates, which essentially mean that if you fail a final exam or you end up failing a class, you can do a resit exam. The resit exam period dates are often a couple weeks after the semester ends. And so if there are resit exams on your program, talk to your program staff who's on site. They'll be able to give you some advice on this and let you know when they are. And then just some things to keep in mind. There are quite big differences oftentimes for U.S. academics versus international academic institutions. Sometimes this looks like, not getting things like participation points and attendance points, and there not being a curve for a final grade. Sometimes when you're abroad, you might be held to the same academic standards as that country. And so if you have specific questions, feel free to contact your on-site support staff. And then if you have any just doubts about academic policies and procedures, you can view the academic policies and procedures chart in your Go Global portal, or you can just reach out to your study abroad advisor and we're happy to provide additional information. I'm going to hand things back over to Alana to talk to you guys a little bit about payments.
Great. Thanks, Bobby. So this is a slide that shows the breakdown of the fees and the amounts by programs. you will see that the top row is the mandatory CISI insurance fee. And this will be a different cost depending upon your term. So as you look across from that first line, you'll see for the fall or the spring, the cost for that CISI insurance fee is $300. If you are going on a J term, it would be $50. And if you are doing a summer program, it's $200. And so all of that, that amount for the billing for CISI is billed directly to your Bursar account in Locus. The next row talks about the SAO admin fee, and this is specifically for the affiliate programs. Just be mindful that for the summer, it's $500, and for the fall or spring, it's $1,000. And again, that is billed to your account in Locus. The third row talks about tuition, room, and board and other affiliate fees. And that can vary, and that is paid directly to the affiliate themselves. And then moving along to the SAO admin fee for those exchanges, faculty-led, and Jesuit affiliates, the amount for that is $200. And again, that is billed to your Bursar account. Moving down the table for tuition, room, and board and other fees for those exchanges, faculty-led, or Jesuit affiliates such as Fordham, SLU, or Marquette. It is dependent on the program, and the exchanges are billed to LUC tuition, and that is again put onto your Locus account. And then if you are involved in the program fee for faculty-led programs, that program fee will vary, and just be mindful that the CISI insurance is included in that program fee. So that's nice for you to know, and that is again billed to your Locus account. One other thing to note is that the spring e-bills will be generated on December 15th, and they are due on January 5th. Thank you.
All right, so we're beginning the final parts of this presentation. So we're going to just talk now about just some preparation materials that you all can do to prepare for your study abroad program. And this is information that's for everybody, so semester long and faculty-led students. And so, piece of advice that we first want to start off with is it's wise to take money out in the local currency before actually departing on the program. And this is because there are sometimes where students arrive in country and they might have issues with their phone. They don't have cell phone service, or they go to take money out from an ATM and they're not able to do so. And so having a little bit of local currency with you before actually departing can be really helpful, because then when you get there, you have money in case of some kind of emergency. So this is highly recommended. Most banks you're able to take out money from, and likely you can do it at the airport as well, but sometimes the fees are a little bit higher. Next, it's important to contact your bank and credit card companies, letting them know of your travel plans. This isn't always the case now, in 2024, but sometimes if you go to use a debit or a credit card abroad, your bank might think that it's suspicious activity and they lock your account. And so you don't want that happening. And so contact them ahead of time and let them know. In addition, make copies of your cards, and so you have multiple ways to access your funds if need be. Something to keep in mind as well is Venmo is very likely not used by locals when you're abroad. And so if you're doing a faculty-led program and you want to send money between other Loyola students, very likely people will have Venmo and Cash App and things of that nature. But oftentimes abroad, Venmo is not used by locals. There's a really helpful currency converter app called Wise. This will allow you to exchange money in your bank directly into the local currency. So we highly recommend downloading this app. It's super helpful if you do not have it already. And then there are these two websites that we have listed here. These are really good resources that will allow you to compare the cost of living for specific countries with the US. And so if you're going to Spain for a semester and you want to see how much milk costs in Spain versus what it costs right now in the US, these websites are really helpful for you, and they can help you start planning how much money you might want to bring with you for personal expenses. Excuse me. Next is regarding communication. Please call your loved ones when you arrive in country. We get panicked parents sometimes who are like, I have not heard from my son or I have not heard from my daughter. So please make sure you contact your loved ones when you arrive, letting them know that you have safely made it. But also set expectations because oftentimes when students first arrive in country, they don't have cell phone service and it might take time to be able to like connect to Wi-Fi or get cell phone coverage. And so just keep that in mind when you're kind of creating that communication plan with loved ones. Speaking of cell phone coverage, it's necessary that you have cell phone coverage when you are abroad. There are a couple different options that we usually will advise that students take advantage of. One option would be unlocking your phone before you go, and then once you arrive in country, purchasing a local SIM card. If you guys do this, if you just contact your phone provider, so like if your cell provider is like AT&T, Verizon, etc., you can just call them or go to a in-person store and they can unlock your phone or tell you if it's possible to have your phone unlocked. Another option is purchasing an international plan with the current provider that you have now. So most cell providers in the States offer international coverage. And so if you guys want to do something like that, you would be able to. And then there are also digital eSIMs as well that you would be able to purchase, and you could work with your cell provider to get more information on that as well. In addition, when it comes to apps that might be helpful for you to communicate, very likely when you're abroad, you will not use SMS with locals. WhatsApp, WeChat are much more common when you're abroad, depending on where you are, of course. And then Skype, Google Voice, and then some iMessages might also be helpful for you as well. Just make sure you're being careful about roaming data charges when you're abroad. We know that sometimes people can fall the victim of that. So please just be careful and keep that in mind. Some other tips, just when thinking about study abroad, before going, make sure you have the correct outlet to charge electronics. I learned this the hard way one of the first times I went abroad, where the outlet that I have didn't match the plug-in in the wall. And so make sure you understand and you have the correct outlet. Amazon sells pretty much every outlet that exists, and it's relatively affordable. Next, please make sure you check the local climate before you depart. We had a student previously who studied abroad in Argentina for a spring semester. So she arrived in country in January with her winter coat, expecting it to be freezing. And January is Argentina's hottest month, for example. So make sure you understand the local climate. Next, do not overpack. Clothes are very likely more affordable where you're going to be. And pretty much anything that you need, you probably can purchase when you're abroad. So there's no need to overpack. Bedding, you may not need to bring it. You can contact your on-site support staff and they can let you know if you need bedding or not. When it comes to foods, be open to new foods. And also it's important to understand allergies versus preferences. Depending on where you are, some allergies are more difficult to be catered to and some are just the same as they are here in the States. And so keep that in mind. And if you have an allergy or a strong food preference, and you're studying abroad in a country where their native language is not English, make sure you understand how to advocate for your allergies in another language. That's super important. So just make sure that's something that you understand, whether you have it printed out with you and then you put it in your wallet. And then when you go somewhere, you can show that to people. Or if you can just memorize how to say it, that would be very important. When it comes to moving around in the host country, public transit, things of that nature, very likely will be a good idea. And then finally, just make sure you upload a copy of your visa in your Go Global portal. So if your country requires a visa, once you have a visa, make a copy of that and upload it in your Go Global portal as well. When it comes to overall next steps with study abroad, make sure to review the post-decision requirements in your study abroad portal and complete them before you depart, with the exception of identifying how many credits you're taking. Again, that needs to be completed before 12/1. It's also important to visit your doctor, talk about prescriptions, on-site treatment, all of those things that Marley mentioned. Complete the course approval process if necessary. Again, if you do not do that, you will not get major, minor, core, or engaged learning credit for your program. In addition, make copies of all your important documents, so credit cards, for example, your passport, visa, things of that nature, and leave them with family members during your time abroad. Make sure you enroll in those 3 safety applications, so STEP, Alert Traveler, and CISI, and then make sure you read all the pre-departure materials provided to you by your host program as well. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to our email address. Our email address is it's studyabroad@luc.edu. We also have an Instagram page at LUC Study Abroad. please give us a follow and make sure you tag us in all of your photos. We want to, live your experiences with you when you're abroad while we remain in Chicago. And then feel free to fill out this assessment, which provides us with feedback on things that we can do to make pre-departure orientation a better use of your time moving forward. It was great having the chance to connect with everyone. We hope that you stay safe when you're abroad. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our office. Safe travels, everyone. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you, everyone.